do not update to the newest software release from Sonos, that's 15.1. Now, this is the first release in 2023. If you already have updated it and aren't having any issues, then that's great. If you have updated and have issues, maybe watch on and hear some workarounds. Now, if you have not updated, do not do it. Now, I wish I could have made this video earlier, but I didn't have the time during the working week to do so. Now, as usual, guys, I like to give you my upfront summary so you don't have to hunt around for the part where I give you the answer. Now, Sonos Update 15.1 is a no-go. Now, sound-wise, everything is good, but there is a very irritating, irky issue which may not affect all users, but it affected me in a very big way. So what's the issue? Well, the software controller is broken. Now, at least on the iOS devices, on the one that I'm using, this is the iPhone 13 Pro. So there were some issues reported online for the Sonos Boost, but I don't have the Sonos Boost, and I have the problem impacting almost my entire system, as you can see in the screenshot right here. So what is the problem? Now, it can be big or small depending on how and when you look at it. Now, the Sonos S2 controller app keeps reporting that my system has issues and still in the updating state with a blue dot. Now, when that happens, you can't get access to the system to play anything through the S2 app. That is a big problem, right? So why did I say it can be a small problem? Well, for one, you can still AirPlay to it. You can use Spotify Connect to play the music. You can still use your connected TV to play sounds through your home theater setup, be it the Beam Gen 2 or the Beam or the Sonos Arc or even the amp. So hardware-wise, on the hardware side, everything is still working, except that you can't control the devices through your S2 app. Now, another workaround is that if you still need to use the Sonos S2 app is to log out of your account. Then somehow the issue will magically disappear. But you won't be able to do things like reconfigure your system, adding or removing subs and surrounds. Now, if you check the system tab for the firmware version, it has already been updated. So the update did go through, except that the devices are not sending the updated status back to the controller software, and therefore the controller is not able to recognize that it has been updated. Now, the problem might actually be very, very small and time limited, because after about 2 hours or so, it seems that the updated status is propagated back to the S2 app. Now, by that time, everything works fine, but I did have to go through many hoops of resetting the speakers, logging in and out of the S2 app, force closing the app, and even reinstalling the app. As well as rejoining networks, I went as far as that. Maybe it would all have been resolved if I waited 2 hours, but then again, I would never know because Sonos doesn't allow a rollback for me to retry the process. So it is an issue, but a small issue. Now, the good thing is sound quality is not impacted. No major issues there. You can update it safely if you can live with the time-limited problems as I've stated earlier. But my question to you is, why would you need to upgrade? There aren't any notable features released, and it comes with a system-wide bug for some users like myself. So why would you want to upgrade? If you're already on 14.18 or 14.20, they both sound great before the update to 15.1. Now, my final recommendation to you is that if you're not already on 14.18 and above, then upgrade. If not, you can still stay on till Sonos releases the next update. I'll let you know if the next update works fine, so stay tuned if you're interested to find out. Now, I'll go on to the rest of the video to explain in detail with a full frequency response chart measuring the sound differences before and after the update. There aren't any. And some workarounds if you already have updated or you want to try your luck to upgrade anyway. Now, meanwhile, you can start the update process as it will take a while, especially if you have lots of Sonos speakers, and you can then continue to watch the rest of the video. Now, how's that for multitasking and me helping you save some time? And while you're at it, do click on the like button if this video has helped you. And if you aren't already subscribed, do consider doing so as I continue to bring you more videos and information on wireless audio products and soundbars. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Even if you don't know what to say, a simple thanks will help the video reach more people who are suffering from PTSD from the last Bosch 14.12 update last year, and let them know that it is either pointless to upgrade to the latest 15.1 firmware at this moment in time, or that it is kind of safe to do so. So after you have already done so, let's get on to the rest of the video. So it has been 2.5 months since Sonos released a firmware update for their speakers. Sonos has religiously followed a monthly release cycle for the entire year of 2022, delivering a firmware update around the third Tuesday of every month. They've also released a problematic version 14.12, which broke TruePlay and reduced sub-outputs for many users for many months when TruePlay was turned on. Now, they did fix it about 3 months later, but that was still 3 months too late and too long. It should not have been broken in the first place. Now, it is February of 2023 now, and Sonos has not released a firmware update since the 6th of December 2022 until the Tuesday that just passed this week. Now, Sonos seem to have followed a major release number every year, so the first release of this year was expected to bring the version from 14.20.1 to 15.0. Now, major releases means major updates and features. Well, not so. So when Sonos commits to a release cycle of frequent updates, they kind of have to release and update the number in any case. Sometimes it feels like they are doing it for the sake of doing it. Now, in 2020, 12.0 was released in June for the new Sonos Arc, the 5s, and the Sub-Gen 3. In 2021, 13.0 was released in March to support the new Sonos Roam. But last year, in 2022, 14.0 was released in January, and there was no new product in sight then. Well, at least not until a few months later when the Sonos Ray was released. So this is 2023, and they just dropped 15.1. Note that 15.0 was skipped entirely, and the release notes just mentioned some bug fixes and performance enhancements, together with the Sonos voice control additional request. Now, by the way, it still won't tell you the date for some reasons. No major features update, no new products for us to run it on yet. Now, because of the fear instilled in most Sonos users from version 14.12, we are still scared shitless when it comes to updating the firmware. Nobody wants to live with a half-ass system performing at half throttle when they paid full price for it. But in this particular release, I've already stated in the upfront summary that it is semi-safe to update. Now, the sound quality is still glorious as it was from version 14.18 onwards, but let me go on to show you the frequency response charts for the before and after update to 15.1. Now, first, the green chart. Now, this is the frequency response chart for 14.20.1, which is the version released on the 6th of December last year. The system tested consists of the Sonos Arc and 2 Sonos subwoofers, both the Gen 2 and the Gen 3, as well as the Sonos Amp driving 2 Sonos in-ceiling speakers for the surround channel. Now, as you can see, the frequency response is relatively flat throughout with a slight emphasis in the bass department. In fact, from the mid-bass down to the lower sub-bass region, it is actually louder than the rest of the system in the frequency curve. Now, the 2 subs are definitely helping to prop up the bass even down to as low as 20 Hz as measured. Now, in short, no issues with the bass. Now, I will next bring in the rate curve. Now, the rate curve is for the same tested system hardware, except that it has been updated to 15.1. You will notice that the overall sound signature deviates very little. In fact, in real-world listening, it is not perceptible at all. The volume has not been impacted. Now, both tests were conducted at the same volume slider at 60%, and neither the mic, which I have mounted in the ceiling, nor the speakers were moved. Now, there is a very slight tail off at the end of the higher frequency band, but I would advise you to ignore it. I can confidently say you're not going to hear the difference at all. Now, I didn't hear any difference in regular listening. Now, maybe you've got a better set of ears than me, but hey, just enjoy the content and don't sweat the 0.1, 0.2 dB difference in that range. Now, this update also brought about an improved set of commands for Sonos Voice, which is Sonos' own version of Smart Assistant. Now, there is a timer function which they built in now, and there's a list of voice controls which seems to be a little bit broader this time round, but note that Sonos Voice is centered around Sonos device control like grouping, volume, playback, play, pause, skip track. Let's focus on the really smart stuff like checking the news and the traffic to work or your calendar. Other than that, no other major functions. So why does this warrant a major version release, and why 15.1? Where's 15.0? Now, maybe 15.0 was problematic and therefore they skipped it. But if they skip firmware releases because they are problematic, shouldn't they have skipped this version too? It was kind of problematic, at least for me. Well, the answer lies in the upcoming product announcement. Now, as the leaks are swirling out there in the market, it seems imminent that the new speakers are going to be announced anytime soon, like really soon, right? Watch out on this channel. I guarantee you timely, first-hand, official confirmation and review of whatever it is that they're going to release for their next era of speakers. Well, before any new hardware releases, they will usually have to update the software and the firmware to take advantage of the new features and the new hardware. Now, if the rumored Era 300 comes to bear, it will bring Atmos channels, extra Atmos channels to the Sonos home theater setup. Now, the extra Atmos channels will require the ARC or the Beam Gen 2 to process Atmos differently because you have to throw the Atmos surround sounds to the Era 300 in the rear. Now, again, however believable the leaks are at this point, it is still unconfirmed. So do wait for the official announcements, which I will bring to you. So while on the surface, it looks like there aren't many changes to the software and the firmware, the sound processing for Atmos should have to change quite considerably under the hood. But then it really begs the question. The hardware isn't here yet. It's not even been announced. So no one really needs version 15.1. And if that's the case, there shouldn't be any real need for you to update. And there's no real need for Sonos to release anything either, unless you really need to have Sonos Voice help you keep a timer. The other reason is, of course, Sonos needs to test this software version out in the market first before the new hardware comes, so that they don't have to deal with two sets of problems at the same time. And speaking of Atmos, we have been missing something from Sonos since Apple Music launched Atmos tracks on their music service. Currently, the only way to get Atmos from Apple Music onto Sonos is to use an Apple TV running the music app connected to the TV with an ARC or eARC port connected to the Sonos ARC or the Beam Gen 2. You can't AirPlay from an Apple Music app to Sonos speakers and expect Atmos. The bandwidth isn't there to support Atmos over AirPlay 2. Now, it is about time Sonos gets the Atmos hooks direct from Apple Music streaming servers and play Atmos music files directly on the S2 app. Now, if the Era 300 pans out to be true, those speakers will have upward firing speakers, and on their own, they should be able to play spatial audio, which is what Atmos is on their own. Whether Atmos is better than stereo is arguable, but hey, if it is a feature I want it enabled, I can choose to turn it off, but the choice should be mine, and I hope they make it a choice. Now, I would have thought that this version 15.1 might actually carry the update for Sonos S2 app to carry Atmos in preparation for their spatial audio direct on Sonos speakers, especially the Era 300, but nope. Well, at least not yet. Now, this should be one interesting development to watch out for in the next version, on top of the regular bug fixes and performance enhancements. Now, I suspect if I say performance enhancement just one more time, I will start getting dodgy ads on my browser for performance enhancement drugs or devices. Performance enhancement, performance enhancement, performance enhancements. So, meanwhile, before the next meaningful release, before the new speakers are officially announced, you might want to check out my previous video here where I was speculating on the next era of speakers from Sonos. And when I say next era, I really mean next era, as in maybe features never before available to Sonos users. So I will see you over in that video.